Just a while ago, the finance minister completed his presentation of the 2017 budget. Key among them is the much talked about tax incentives that he spoke about, and also the free education policy. That is the free SHS, the $1 million for every district, and several policy initiatives. Some would say that indeed most of the things that government spoke about has indeed come to pass. And indeed, we're going to do analysis of the several measures that the finance minister spoke about during the 2017 budget. I have with me here the deputy minister, or more of an incoming minister of finance. And if you've just joined us, this is our coverage of the 2017 budget. Just a while ago, you heard the finance minister, that is Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, actually presenting the 2017 budget, highlighting several issues, key issues, which he believes that will help stabilize the economy. I have with me here, that is Honorable with me. He's a member of Parliament in Obuasi and Kwaku Kwarteng. Kwaku Kwarteng, welcome to our coverage of the 2017 budget. For you, you promised several measures. Do you believe that you have indeed delivered on them?
We have delivered on our measures. And many of us are very excited. I would like to say good day to your viewers and your listeners. We are in exciting times. The change that Ghanaians voted for was not a change for its sake. It was a change for the way we do our things, and more importantly, a change in the economic and living circumstances of Ghanaians. This budget has sought very successfully to deliver on these. So you see the minister deliver on the commitment we made to the people of this country. And then two, you also see the effort we are making to correct some of the liabilities, the weaknesses that we have inherited. And we have done this, as we promised, by reprioritizing. We are cutting the waste, and we are putting money where it ought to be. We are cutting taxes because we want businesses to do well, to open up, and to provide employment for our people. It is the reason you had all those tax cuts. We are providing special incentives. But to do this, we recognize that we must cut the waste and the corruption. We have promised, and this budget has delivered it. We're going to set up a special prosecutor. We're going to correct the weaknesses that have become associated with single-source procurement. In short, we think this budget sets out to deliver on our commitments and improve on the circumstances of Ghanaians.
Let's look at some of the key tax measures that you actually outlined in the budget. And there were some you are saying that we are working on. Let's look at key timelines, because I know that there are several policy measures or regulatory that you have to submit to Parliament to correct or to actually let these reviews and abolishment be realized. What are the clear timelines here that these taxes will be effected or implemented?
We have prepared the documentation for the change in legislation. We will be coming to Parliament from Tuesday. Be coming to Parliament. Many of these legislative changes to abolish the taxes would come under certificate of urgency, because we want Ghanaians to enjoy the reliefs immediately. So we'll be making the case for such an urgent treatment of the taxes. Many of the tax interventions that were mentioned would happen immediately. So if it's about timelines, I'll only ask you to wait and see. You would see us deliver immediately. We are committed to them. If you look at the fiscals we have prepared, we have not included these. That tells you that as far as we are concerned, it is money that we don't have. And so these tax cuts will take immediate effect, and we would hope and we pray that business will respond immediately.
There are concerns about the impact on your revenue and whether you've done any analysis to actually gauge the impact on revenue and whether all those measures that you've put in place would be able to correct this hole that you are creating with these exemptions.
We have. During the presentation of our manifesto commitments last year, we were invited to give out the details. We promised that it would be contained in this budget statement. the preparation of a budget is a tedious exercise. We have gone through every line. We understand the implications of every tax measure. We understand our limitations. We also understand our opportunities. We have prepared estimates of expenditures and revenue. We are absolutely confident that these measures would be contained in this budget statement, and in rolling them out, we will be successful in achieving the outcomes we desire.
Let's look at your free SHS policy, and from what the minister read out, he didn't give much details on the sources of funding. How are you going to fund this 3 billion, the Ghana cedis expenditure for this policy?
Well, to start with, the 3 billion is your.
Well, that has been speculating. That is what they are putting out. That's the estimate that they are putting out.
You will have the details.
Okay.
But what I can say to you now is that we have petroleum revenue, we have non-tax revenue, we have tax revenue. We put all these revenues in the resource envelope. The free SHS will be funded from this envelope. We must begin to move away from earmarking to pretend that we're going to finance specific initiatives by some specific revenue lines. Because once you do that, you raise the question, if, for instance, you decided that you were going to use some particular resource line, the question would then arise that what if you exhaust those resources? What we are saying to the people of this country is this: yes, petroleum revenue will be an important inflow into the resource envelope. And so you may say that, yes, we are funding free SHS from some petroleum revenue. But that is not all. We are looking at all the sources of revenue available to us, and in the end, we will finance all our important initiatives from this total envelope. The important thing is that our envelope can't contain or can't deliver on all the commitments. This we are confident about.
Let's also look at some of the policies that you've outlined in this whole budget. And some are saying that going forward, do you think that the confidence issue will be addressed? Because there were some investors, there were some offshore investors who were really looking up to this budget to correct and address that. Yeah. The Ghana cedi, the confidence issue, are you really optimistic that this budget can do that?
It will. You see, if you look at the strategies we're putting in place, the earmark realignment, the realignment of the earmark funds, if you look at all those interventions, it is supposed to make it possible for government to borrow less. So long as government lives within its means, you can be sure that the currency will be protected. So, yes, the way to do it, the central bank is doing its bit on monetary policy. On the fiscal management, what we are looking to do is to stop the excessive budget overruns that eventually result in the weakening of the cedi. We have no doubt that investors will look at our strategies, look at our fiscal targets, and come to the conclusion that this economy will pick up again, and therefore the confidence will come, and ultimately the cedi and the general Ghanaian economy would be beneficiaries.
You've talked about rigidity in the budget and all those things, and to free the space. I see a fiscal council, a financial stability council. Aren't you creating another bureaucracy again?
No, these will not be bureaucracies in the sense that you say. The fiscal council, for instance, will be a body of advisors, high-powered minds on fiscal policy, whose opinion on our fiscal management would be very much respected. So these are not going to be new offices set up. They are just strategies we are putting in place to ensure that those of us who would manage the fiscals would do so taking into account its impact on the overall macroeconomic stability we seek.
So that was Kweku Kwarteng. He is a member of parliament, and we also understand that he is the incoming Deputy Minister of Finance. We wish you all the best and more debate on this whole budget issue. This is our coverage of the 2017 budget, and you can stay with us here for all the issues, all the analysis, all the expectations on this budget. I have with me here Fusaini Issa. He's the Member of Parliament for Okainkwe North, and we'll be getting his views on basically on this whole budget presentation from the party's perspective on all of the issues that the Finance Minister has outlined. Going through the budget, are you so excited what the Minister has spoken about and the fact that it will make you so excited to go back to your constituency and tell your electorates that we promise you X, we have delivered X, Y, Z?
I think that, thank you and good afternoon to your viewers. I think that the budget basically was full of facts, figures, and philosophy. And I'm sure Ghanaians will be very happy because it is a budget that is supposed to stop the rot. And then whilst we zero out, then we can start rising. This budget, in the budget, is included lots of transformational issues. We are trying to restructure all the earmark funds. We are looking at new issues. It's full of job creation avenues. It's making sure that businesses are sustained. It's supporting the private sector. And it is also introducing loads of social interventions. I mean, to get all three features in one budget, it's something that it's unprecedented in this country. I'm sure this is a game changer. We are going to implement this, and by the time this cycle comes around, you see that Ghana will be transformed, and then we'll be ready to take off again once we have zeroed up and stopped the rot.
Some are already describing this budget as robbing Peter to pay Paul, because in one breath you are giving businesses some exemptions, some reliefs. In another breath, you're going to enforce compliance, go after them, and even look at this whole realignment issue. So isn't anything that we should be excited about?
I think we should be excited. We're talking about the restructuring of the statutory funds. Hitherto, it's about 40% of all government revenue. And if we continue this way, already we are talking about three-line items: the statutory funds or earmark funds, debt servicing, and wages and salary. Take almost 100% of our total revenues. And if we are to continue in that trajectory, it means that this year, if we continue that sort of expenditure patterns, it means this year we'll have to borrow to take care of our recurrent expenditure. To move away, we needed to do something very drastic. We needed to bring innovations in the budget. The capping of the statutory funds at 25% is a starting point. And once we are sure we're going to get it right, once we get it right, we are able to work on our wages and salary. Like the minister said, from this year, we're going to use the database at SNET to do the payroll. If you're not registered on the Social Security, it means you're going to have problems being on the government. Those are measures to ensure that we move away from those three items, taking our total revenue. Once we're able to move, it gives us enough flexibility to be able to have resources to invest in other sectors, because as a society, if we are unable to invest in other sectors of the society, I mean entropy sets in and we are going to die off. This is what we need for Ghana. This is the right budget for this time. I am sure we're zeroing it out, we're flattening the rot, and then we are going to take off from the next time.
Look at the whole idea of proposals to review how certain statutory funds are dispersed.
Yeah.
And already your members on the other side are not happy with it.
Yeah.
The District Assembly Common Fund and even the MP's Common Fund and all those things. They have concerns about it. What do you say to that? Because there are some already saying that, listen, we will make things difficult for you. If the little funds that is available to us to work, you are trying to review it.
I think the basic principle there is to allow some flexibility in the budget. Look, if these funds are structured and capped at 25%, and we are implementing the 1 million cedis per constituency, monies are still going down to the districts, monies are still going down to the constituencies. The difference here is that we are going to ensure that these monies go down and they're used for the right purposes. If it doesn't get to the district through the district common fund, it is going to get there through the 1 million per constituency, and this is also directed directly to the one factory in one district, also directed directly to the one dam in one village, and so monies are still going to go there. Infrastructure is going to still continue. Development projects are still going to continue there. The difference is at this time we're going to ensure that those resources that come into the management in the hands of the government for government to manage are dealt with more efficiently this time around.
Let's look at the free senior high school bit as well. The finance minister, the incoming deputy finance minister, has spoken about how they intend to get the necessary funds to support the policy. Do you think that this approach is sustainable?
I think it's very sustainable. Already we are implementing the FQ. Education in public schools from kindergarten to JHS3 is already free, and nobody's asking where we're getting the money from. It is funded from the budget every year, and we are saying we are redefining basic education from the BECE level or the JHS level to the SHS level. So we are saying that this additional 3 years are still going to be funded from the budget, and we've shown that where we are going to, the innovation we are going to do to create that flexibility within the budget to enable us get the needed resources to be able to push this policy. So I don't really see where the problem is. Already from kindergarten to JHS, nobody's asking where the money is coming from. The money comes from annual budgetary allocations, and that's exactly what we're going to do going forward. The additional 3 years is going to be funded from the budget, and we have found resources. We have created that space to enable us get those resources to fund additional 3 years. So what's the problem?
I say you have 4 years to implement whatever promise that you have. Some are saying, why the rush? Rushing with the tax interventions, one district, one dam, all these $1 million per constituency and all those things. Some are saying that this could come at some serious shocks for the economy. Why the rush?
Like the president said during the State of the Nation address, for the state of this nation today, for us to stop the rot, for us to get this country back on track, we have to be a nation in a hurry. So we have no time at all to waste. Other countries are making great strides. Why do we, something that we could do this year, why should we wait another year or two? We can do it. We have the resources. We have found the resources. We've introduced the innovations into the budget. This unprecedented budget is going to enable us to roll out this policy. So why do we have to wait for next year? I believe that we have found the answer. We have found the antidote. We are zeroing it out, and then we are going to roll out this policy. This year, every constituency is going to get the city equivalent of $1 million. And it's clear in the budget. In the next couple of days, by the time we also have to analyze the budget in depth, we'll see that it's all very feasible. So we don't have to wait for next year.
Real campaign ride for you. You promised a lot of things, Kaya, spare parts and all those things.
Right.
You are going to ride on this thing.
Of course, that's what we're saying. We're removing all import duty on spare parts. It actually doesn't make sense for us to be charging spare. How much money? Remember, in the past, in the last government, they taxed condoms, they taxed calluses. It wasn't thought through. We have thought through these policies. We know how much revenue government is making from this. We know how much it's even going to cost to get those revenues. And when you look at the net effect, sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Like it happened in the case of the condom tax. We have thought through this. We know that it's going to ensure that we have a vibrant and second-hand dealing market. Our brothers in Abosuka who have vibrant markets. Once their businesses are growing, they'll be paying taxes. So we all start to benefit from this initiative. And I'm very hopeful that it's going to work, and then we're all going to be the ultimate beneficiaries.
Yeah, how do you expect businesses to take advantage of these proposals that you have put forward? You are a member of the Finance Committee yourself. To take advantage of these measures, because there are some who are worried.
There's so many policy initiatives that businesses could take advantage of. Look at the real estate sector. Now, if you have to buy a house, you have to pay 5% VAT on. We are saying we are scrapping it. We want the sector to bloom. Once the sector is bloom, we are going to solve the housing deficit we have in this country. If we have such a huge deficit in the housing sector, and then we go on with a lazy approach of taxing sectors where we have such deficits, I don't think we can make strides in these sectors. So the right approach is to reduce the cost of doing business. We're scrapping also the VAT on financial services. This is going to free a lot of resources for the same businesses so they can expand and employ more. It's also a job creation opportunity for business to take. So businesses are the final beneficiaries from this policy. And I'm sure that by the time we come run through this cycle, Ghana is going to be a very different place to live.
So this is our coverage of the 2017 budget, and this is the place to be to get all the reactions from the members of parliament and also whoever matters when it comes to financial issues and economic issues and post-reactions of the budget. I have with me here Honorable Mutawakilu. He's a member of parliament for
Damongo.
Damongo, that was right.
Yes, thank you.
First, find out from you, one would ask, what do you make of the budget?
Yeah, it's the maiden budget and the first budget, so there's no need for comparison. But one important thing he made, and I understand, was that After all, the economy wasn't broke because there was external reserve of $6.2 billion, 3 months of import cover, which they will maintain up to 2016.
But no one said that the economy was broke. If you follow the commentary from those who matter, nobody said the economy was broke. They were talking about overruns and high budget expenditure and all.
The president said the economy was worse than what they thought. What is the meaning of worse? Now, too, we had wanted inconsistencies in their figures. The president said the deficit is 9%. The finance minister said deficit is 8.7. Which one should we believe? 2, the president said debt to GDP is 74%. The finance minister said debt to GDP is 73%.
I believe that in those processes, they were still reviewing the numbers, and he made it clear.
The president never said provisional. If the president in State of the Nation address had indicated provisional, would have said, okay, that means it's still under review. But he was very, very emphatic. And that is where we said he was so much in a hurry, and as a result, there were so many mistakes. And therefore, the Minister of Finance indicated him, let's go. I thought one of the critical taxes that they would have taken off, that will have a chain effect, was the energy sector levy. But you know what? They want to even improve upon it and add more legacy debt. So that means that there is no way they will review the energy sector levy.
About the petroleum levy tax as well, which is going to go. No matter how insignificant it is, some will say that it will go a long way to affect prices of petroleum products.
Isn't necessarily true, but let me tell you, the one
you don't think so?
The one that
you don't think so that will have impact on petroleum prices?
The one that will have significant impact is the energy sector levy that I had promised to review. But rather, they are going to include more legacy debt. 2, corporate tax. Corporate tax. You know, if they had reduced the corporate tax from the figure to 20%, do you know how much they would have been releasing? 1.5 billion. That one, they refused to touch on it. And I thought these were very critical to the industry and to many all Ghanaians because it cut across. But you realize that they were tackling those that were minimal.
And let's hold on there. Let us also get the Honorable Minister, the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Setekpe, and great to have you join us on our coverage of the 2017 budget. Honorable, let me ask you, what do you make of what the Finance Minister presented today?
Well, the Finance Minister, to his credit, this is his first budget, and I think we should give him credit within a short period of time for presenting or meeting his statutory and constitutional responsibility to the nation. But we also saw quite a number of promises that were made, even when we said that the economy was such that those promises were a bit outlandish. And frankly speaking, if you had a strong economy, it would have been very difficult. I noticed also that there were quite a number of initiatives which should have been brought, up front. They were mentioned, like the sinking fund. There was no mention within the concept of debt that the nation is not going to be faced with the prospects of redeeming the 2017 bond. I thought that a little compliment would have been, and this is the buyback, the sinking fund, and other policies. I'm mentioning this because it is looking to the outside world as though Ghana had a total non-performance. But the markets can pick a signal from this, and know that we have quite solid policies. For example, the sinking fund has taken over $360 million US, 366 million to be precise, for the first time, paid down our bonds. The markets also know, for example, that we have extended the tenor of our loans, and I am happy that despite the talk about no borrowing, no refinancing, we are seeing all those policies coming back in this budget. And I would hope that during the budget, we would focus on this in the interest of the nation, because the markets don't have to see only the talking down of the economy. The markets have to see all the prospects that are going to come with Sankofa. The markets have to see the prospects that are going to come with power. And these are the things. But when we downplay these achievements in the past, present, and in the future, then I think it is very important. We also notice that there was a bit of, back, tracking on even the level of the deficit. I think that we wait to see what was the true level of the deficit.
Honorable, let's look at some of the tax measures. And during your time, you were criticized of your tax approach. And there were concerns that these taxes were too much and it should be reviewed. The argument was that during that time, it was difficult to review those taxes. That has been done. What do you make of this approach?
They have not been done. The ESLA has not been removed. The corporate tax has not been reduced to 20% yet. You have not seen a total eradication of the 17.5. We raised it from 15, to 17.5. All that has been done, is to pick a few. And I think the speech writers should have been a bit more careful also. There is no national tax on Kayaye. You know that this is a local government, tax.
So that was a mistake. There is no tax like that.
I'm only laying the records. I like the Ghanaians to know that there is nothing like a national Kayaye tax. It is a local government, policy to impose those levies. If you want them to go, the right place is to go to the district assemblies. And the question is, if it's for Kayaye, is it for truck pushers? Is it for the porters? That class. And this is also one very important thing. We do not impose taxes only on account of revenue. We do impose taxes on account of efficiency and on account of equity. And so the point is we have an expanding services sector. And so you cannot continue to take the services sector out of the tax net forever. I think you are not being efficient. And I think these are some of the issues, which I think with time we are going to be discussing.
You think that the minister was selective in his whole tax approach? That's what you think?
Well, that
could have done better.
That could be your conclusion. I just said that we have not seen. No, please. I just gave you the rendition that we have not seen a reduction in the corporate tax to 20%. We have not seen a removal of the ESLA. We have not seen a rollback of the additional 2.5% on the VAT across board. And there are issues also we need to be careful. For example, well, I understand you may want to pamper to say, spare parts dealers, but is Ghana going to be a source of smuggling where goods are going to, these spare parts are going to come to Ghana and then they will be seen across the border, and then the revenue benefit we were supposed to have gotten, would inure to our neighboring state. We had this experience with very, very low crude oil prices, and we know that it encouraged smuggling. So we are only going to deprive ourselves of revenue. I'm also not sure whether, the caution with raw materials in saying that it is within the ECOWAS convergence criteria has been thought through. Are we going to do this unilaterally outside the ECOWAS convergence, the ECOWAS tariff? I think we need to be patient, and I think these are issues that will be debated.
You think it's more of a populist approach? That's what you think?
No, I'm only saying that the policy, could have been looked at more deeply, and the implications sought. The confidence in saying, I like the caution when it came to raw materials, that it is within the ECOWAS tariff, nomenclature, and consultations will go on. You don't also move, therefore, to other, taxes, import duties in particular. And by the way, we must know that all indirect taxes are costs which are deductible. And therefore, those people who often push for these taxes to be removed are those who are non-compliant.
No, but let me get the views of a member on the Finance Committee as well, and who will also be getting the view of the Honorable Jinapor. But for you, so finally for you, government is hoping that this will spare growth, engineer private sector development and all those things.
There was no mention of EXIM, for example, which is a prime, instrument we put in place, for example, for exporters. I'm glad that it has not been taken off. I'm glad that they talk about taking out the gift. Yes, the investment, of course, yes.
Are you worried?
No, it's not going off. If you listen to the minister, in fairness to him, he said that there was an earlier proposal along the same lines. And let me assure the public that we did consider that, that draft in coming up with a gift. And I see the convergence. The difference is that the emphasis of the first one was on private sector. We wanted the emphasis because the revenues were coming from the petroleum funds and linked with the debt management. So it didn't go away. All I'm saying is that there are a lot of initiatives that we were told would go away, which haven't gone away. And I'm glad that the reality is setting in, and we would continue to debate the issues as we go on.
More of reality strike. I'll be talking very soon to John Jinapor. He's MP for Yape Kushegu, former Deputy Minister of Power. Let me get your concern before I also come to another member of Parliament here. Let's look at the energy sector and the policy measures that the Finance Minister outlined to try and stabilize the situation. What do you make of it?
Clearly, it's obvious that there was nothing new. Everything he mentioned, right from generation, distribution, and all that, were projects that we initiated. He talked about GE, he talked about LA Power, he talked about Jacobson, he talked about Amandi. These are projects that we initiated and even brought financial close to them. In fact, Sen Power has started construction like 2 years ago. And so clearly there's nothing new. And so it's a continuum. But more importantly, I want to assure Ghanaians that if any of you anticipated that your energy bills in terms of electricity tariffs were going to go down, forget about it.
Why? Because let's look at even the petroleum tax
saying
there.
that if anybody anticipated that his electricity bills were going to come down, forget about it.
If they stabilize the economy, the city stabilizes, it has impact on the pricing of the utility tariff. If they do things that will revive confidence in the energy sector, wouldn't that drive down the price?
I want to repeat, I, John Abdullah Jinapor, MP for Yape Kosogo, wish to state on authority that if anybody expected that his electricity bills would come down, forget about it. Rather, we should be bracing up for difficult times. Because clearly the energy sector levy, which the MPP promised to scrap, would not be scrapped. The minister says that he's rather coming to come back and tell us how he will realign the levy to the VAT on non-residential consumers, which the MPP promised to scrap, will not be scrapped, because he was very silent on that. And these are the two main levies. He talked about street light levy. For his information, the energy sector levy came to repeal the street light levy. And so there's nothing like street light levy. The street light levy used to be 0.004 pesos per kilowatt hour, 0.404. It's no more in the system. And so clearly, I do not understand what he means by his reducing street light levy.
Let's look at the bit on the petroleum tax as well. Wouldn't that result in some significant reduction or marginal on the price of petroleum products?
He's talking about taking it from 17 to 15. So it tells you that a 2% reduction. Yeah. As I speak to you, petroleum prices have gone up by about 9%. And so clearly, there won't be any reduction. And there are indications that petrol prices are supposed to go up by 3.6% because of the value of the cedi. The cedi is depreciating at an astronomical rate. And the forest recovery has to kick in. So clearly it's not going to go down.
Bring your other colleague member in here. I mean, what do you make of the concerns that have been outlined? They believe that your tax measures, they are populist, they are not addressing the real issues on the ground, and therefore what you want to achieve, you wouldn't achieve it.
On the contrary, I think that my colleagues are amazed. They are seriously shocked about the delivery of the finance minister. And to say this, seriously, first of all, you need to identify the problems within the economy. They had opportunity for 8 years, where the private sector that should have been the supporting arm of government to promote growth in this economy, we cannot see it. So clearly, they were making noise when the president came to the House that they wanted detail of the state of the nation. Now he has come out to tell you that, look, in these nuisance taxes, he enumerated all of them. The 17.5% of financial tax, he has taken it off. The aviation 17.5% on airline, domestic airline, he has taken it off. Okay? Import duty on manufacturing, he has taken it off. Employers who engage graduates, they are giving them tax incentive. All these are boosters, okay, to stimulate the economy. Because if you are able to take off these weights of taxes on these people, it's going to enhance in productivity. which in another way you can end up in taxing them and get about it. This is what is killing our people, and they find it quite difficult to absorb it. Here again, this is my very good brother and friend. The energy issue that he's talking about, I heard him making statement on the floor, okay? They give us, what do you call it, the fuel that they claim that they left us. They made that order, they never paid for it. You should, hold on. Please.
Establish an LC. So don't say you never paid for fuel. It's never done.
You ordered, you never paid for it. You never paid. Because the banks are crying. You are owing $2.4 billion. And it's a matter of generating monies to go and pay all these things. These are issues that we're talking about. And again, we all know that the poor people in this country forms the majority of our economy. Now we are saying that it's not everybody who has private cars. Most of the people go to Babosokai, and this is the commercial drivers. Now, when they go and import, we're not going to tax them any tax. Go back, reduce the prices, so that the driver can have the opportunity to afford the price of these.
Quick comment.
Let me learn. This is what is worrying our people. So it means that if this tax on these spare parts has been taken off, it has effect on the pricing. Okay, it has effect on the pricing, which people can afford to do.
No, but let me get a quick comment from you, because he will go away, and then Ato Forson, former Deputy Minister of Finance, will join us. Quick.
First of all, let my brother and honorable colleague Titus deny the fact that electricity prices will not go down. Let him deny the fact that the tariffs will not go down. Let him deny the fact that ESLA, the energy sector levy, which they described as obnoxious, which they describe as nuisance, will not go down by even 5%. Let him deny the fact that VAT on non-residential consumers will not go down. I made specific allegations. Finally, fuel. For your information, my brother, when you order fuel, you don't pay outright for it. You order fuel, establish an LC, use it, and within 60 days to 90 days, you make payment for it. Because the ordinary consumer is expected to consume the fuel through consuming of power. And by paying, you have a window. We assume that in 30 days you can make the collections, and you have another 30 days of a window in order to compound the monies and pay. And so these are specific issues I have raised. I am not making noise. I'm speaking to the issues. Let us speak to the facts. Let us speak to the issues of concern. Would electricity tariffs go down or not? Confirm that for us. Would the energy sector levy go down or not? Confirm that for us. Are you going to scrap VAT on energy sales or not? Confirm that for us. These are serious issues we are raising.
This is our coverage of the 2017 budget, where we are engaging all those who matter on this particular issue. And then let's get to the former Deputy Minister of Finance, Ato Forson. You were asking for details. You raised concerns whether it can be done or not. Those tax measures or tax policies they announced, some have been scrapped, some have also been reviewed.
Yeah. Let me say that yes, the finance minister delivered his budget. But my opening remarks, what I can say is that I can see the budget is very deceptive. It's very populist. In fact, it's not well thought through. Some of the policies cannot preserve the country's medium-term challenges that we are likely to go through. But I can only say that Ghanaians should brace ourselves for bigger challenges ahead of us. I say this because, one, the finance minister said that they have removed taxes relating to the special import levy. And he mentioned that they have removed only the 1% of the special import levy. I think it's deceptive, very deceptive, and very, very populist. Because the special import tax has two main components, the 1% and the 2%. He only came to Parliament to remove the 1% element. That 1% element, when you are to quantify it, is under 100 million. The main one is the 2%. The 2% of the special import levy, that will give you total revenue of about 568 million. He was silent on that. It's nothing but very deception. Let me also talk about the other one that he mentioned. He talked about the fact that in their manifesto, they are going to scrap taxes on raw materials. Today, in his presentation, he was silent about it. The only one, taxes on raw material, import duty on raw materials that he mentioned was on the pharmaceutical industry. Why wasn't he so open to announce that he was going to remove all of that?
Say that they have 4 years to rule this country. In their manifesto, there wasn't any clear timelines. If any government has just started, and even the first year, they've given these indications, some people might say there is more to come.
Let me say that they were very categorical during their campaign that in their first budget, for instance, they are going to reduce the corporate income tax from 25% to 20%. Today they are pushing it to 2018. By the end of 2018, they'll say they can't do it. They are pushing it to the next administration. What is this? This is deception. The so-called taxes they claim they have removed, if you are to quantify them, it's less than $1 billion. It's less than $1 billion. They decided to be quiet on those big tax handles that they have promised Ghanaians. They were quiet. Let's go to the drawing board and quantify them one by one, and quantify what is in their budget, what is in their so-called their manifesto. You will see clearly there's a complete departure of what they promised Ghanaians and what they are doing today.
Think that if they submit the necessary regulations, there will be fine details on other things that they might want to do?
Regulations does not introduce taxes. Regulations does not reduce taxes. Legislations, probably they will come with legislation, but he announced them. Another thing that he talked about, which I find is so sad, is the fact that they are going to more or less scrap import duties on spare parts. Let me say that this policy is not consistent with the already agreement that the old cars over age cars are going to attract higher, higher tariffs at the port. He should as well remove that one. Because if you fail to remove that one, you are not achieving anything. Let me say that tax policy is not only for revenue. What they have done, you know what it means? Ghana is going to be a dumping grounds for some of these spare parts, for some of these cars that are coming in, because the spare parts will attract interest-free. The air emission is going to go up. The health implication is bad. How much revenue are we going to realize out of this as a result of giving it to it, as against what you can do?
For every businessman, taxes is always a big expenditure on them. And even if I have 1% going off, that has implications for my expenditure and investment. So if it's even going to be gradual, some are saying that that is an indication that I'll be given that space to plow back those monies into the business.
George, let me say that the taxes are not always introduced for the purposes of getting revenue for central government.
What do you mean?
Taxes are sometimes introduced for the purposes of shaping policy. Shaping policy. It is not for nothing that overage cars are taxed at higher rate as against a new car. It is not for nothing. Because the health implication is more serious than the revenue that you accrue. But let me conclude. I know you want to go, but let me conclude by saying that if you look at the taxes as he claimed he's removed, the analysis that he's done in terms of total taxes he wants to get is overstated. Taxes are overstated. Expenditure is overstated. In fact, the 6.5 deficit that he's talking about, I assure you today, by December, next year, November, the same finance minister will come before this Parliament House and say that he can't meet the target. He cannot meet that target.
Thank you so much, former Deputy Minister of Finance in the former administration. I also have with me here Dr. Ezenyama. Thank you so much for joining us in our coverage. I hope I got the name right.
Yeah, okay.
So let me ask you your perspective on the budget.
Let me first of all thank you and say that some of us, I actually underestimated the richness of the budget before I got here today. But I can tell you, and you and I bear witness to that this is a step in the right direction. It tells you that Ghana is ready to do business from all sectors. Some of the things that we said during the campaign, you might think that's just a political talk, but when you listen to the minister talking, it means that every word that we uttered, we meant it. From free senior high school, from one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one constituency, $1 million. He mentioned all these, and these are all starting this year. So it means that this is the government ready to do business. We don't play with words. And in the house, in the chamber, you could hear the guys from the other side talking about 419. What is 419? 419.
You're saying that your policy measures are deceptive.
I was actually listening to the minister, the former minister, a minute ago, and he was saying that the taxes that we've reduced and abolished is just under $1 billion. And I was thinking, wow, just. And it means that, maybe just, but then if it was something that you could have done to lessen the burden on Ghanaians, why didn't you do it when you had the opportunity? And now you have a new government who has the people at heart, trying to implement all these things to make our life better. And we're saying, just. I can't believe that.
No, thank you so much for it. Let me get to hi, sir, and welcome to our coverage of the 2000. And Yofi Grant is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. And I know that when you were sitting down, I hope you're crossing your notes and see that how can I take this document to convince those offshore investors to come back and invest in this economy? Have you gotten the necessary document or support or policy measures to take it out there and tell these offshore investors that bring back your money to save the Ghana city?
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, we've had significant input to the budget itself. And I've been at work in 4 weeks, but I've had significant interaction with some major investors who are looking at this country. And incidentally, most of the reliefs that were given were those that they had at the back of their minds. For example, the 2-year relief from capital gains on earnings from the stock exchange, which is very significant because some of these are portfolio investors who come in who invest very large amounts. And then when they are taking the money out, you say, no, we have to tax it. When we're bringing it in, you didn't say you tax it. So that alone is enough incentive for many of them to come. But at the end of the day, the bigger picture is reducing the front load for people who invest and work and making it easier to do business in Ghana and making it cheaper to do business in Ghana. That obviously is a major attraction in investments. I mean, today, Nissan is looking to build a factory somewhere. They're asking countries to bid because they want to see an environment that really facilitates business growth. And not only that, but an environment that also takes care of its people. And here we have a very interesting forward-looking budget that first will repair some of the anomalies that we've seen at the end of the year, and then set out a transformational agenda for growth, and growth that will create jobs, and our citizens will create wealth.
Before this budget presentation, I had an opportunity to engage some offshore investors. Their concern was some practical measures that this budget should announce so that they can bring their money back. What problem we are experiencing right now is the Ghana city. Do you think that there have been clear policies in this budget that could convince these offshore investors so that we can see some stability in the Ghana city?
You know, for most investors, it's not a question of whether what they want to see is doing away with volatility of currency and interest rates. They want stability so that they can predict and they can do their business plans. And I think that the policies that we are putting in place obviously would give the city some relief and keep it stable. We've seen a bit of stability already, and we expect that it to be maintained. And that's where we are. At the end of the day, governance is a continuous process. And we don't expect that we will do everything. But the things that we said we'll do, we are starting them now and creating the opportunities now. I mean, even the one district, one factory is a very interesting concept for many investors that I've spoken to, from large size to small size.
And they are coming.
Oh, they are coming.
Okay, thank you very much. Yofi Grant, Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Very soon I'll be going to Honorable George, who is a member of Parliament for Wutu Senya West there. What do you make of the budget? Make your work more easier as a parliamentarian to your constituency?
I think, yes. I think basically for me, the budget addresses two issues. It addresses our commitment to fix the economy, to provide the macroeconomic stability, and it also provides the platform for us to start sowing the seeds for growth and jobs and the delivery of the campaign promises that we made. And I think for me, that's it. It just sums it all like that.
And your work will become more easier as a parliamentarian to your constituency?
Well, I think Ghanaians will become much better off over the next 4 years. We clearly have put in place a number of initiatives. We've made a commitment to the free SHS, which is going to start this year for all government SHSs for the first year. That is captured in the budget. We've made a commitment to change or to shift the focus from taxation to production, and that is clearly exhibited or clearly demonstrated in the number of taxes that have been abolished by this budget.
George Anda is a member of parliament for Utu Senior West. Thank you so much. Let me get the view of Isaac Adongo. He's a member of parliament for Bolga Central, I'm right. For you, what do you make of those policy measures in the budget? Is it going to make your work more easier as a parliamentarian in engaging your constituency? $1 million for your constituency. One would ask that, what do you make of this budget?
Well, I have left this session completely without answers. One, our biggest challenge at the community level is an increased resource envelope. And we were aware that the District Assembly Common Fund at 7.5% wasn't enough. Now we are being told that they are capping it at 25%. So where is the 75%? You pass behind and give it to them in $1 million, robbing Peter to pay Paul. That is not additional inflow of resources. We want additional innovative inflow of resources, not cutting playing chess with the same revenue. That is one. Two, a lot of the initiatives that he mentioned that he's going to abolish two taxes, particularly to do with the energy sector. One is the street lighting and the rest. And I challenge him, under which law are those taxes being collected? They don't exist. Two clear laws don't exist because they have all been consumed in the energy sector levy law. And that energy sector levy, you are not willing to touch it. So why will you now be deceiving the people of Ghana that you are going to abolish taxes that really don't exist? They should tell us, the Kaya levy, under which law is it collected in Ghana? It doesn't exist. So these are propaganda. Touching the surface, scratching the surface. How many people in Ghana access the financial sector? So that if you remove the VAT on that, what impact is it going to make on the people? Basically nothing. How many people?
There's still a growing number of people who are banking with commercial banks.
90% of Ghanaians are outside of the banking sector. They want you to remove taxes on raw materials of manufacturing companies. You come and you dodge that. And that was a clear promise that was actually the game changer, that you eliminate taxes on raw materials. And that would have made a lot of impact on the cost of these businesses. You get there and you avoid it. Import duty is 3%, and you create the impression that it's 1%. You say, I'll remove the 1%. It is 3%. So what is going to happen to the other 2%?
Honorable, thank you so much for your... Let me get to the former Minister, Power Minister, and thank you so much for joining us on our coverage of this 2017 budget. Listening to the presentation, are you more convinced that the problems in the energy sector could be over?
Well, depending on what problem you are looking at and what you're talking about.
Improving on income streams and revenue for the sector.
Improving on income streams. I am glad the finance minister did not touch on their manifesto promise of removing the energy sector levies. I'm also glad that he considered that that is one levy that outperformed expectation, that levy rigged in even far more than was projected. That, for me, is the foundation stone for stabilizing the finances of the energy sector. Effectively, in the energy sector, no tax has been removed. The street lighting levy doesn't exist because it was consumed in the 10%.
What about the petroleum?
The petroleum one, I mean, it's negligible. It's absolutely negligible. Reducing it to the level is negligible. It's more cosmetic. The real taxes I was looking for was they keeping up to their promise of reducing the energy sector levy, which is massive, and also reducing the corporate income tax, which was a pledge. I also wonder why import duties on spare parts. Why do we think spare parts are more important than industrial raw materials? If I had a choice to reduce one tax, industrial raw material or spare parts, I would definitely go for industrial raw material. For that is what pushes on forward production. Is it because they have a strong spare part support base at Aboso Kaya Swami magazine? I expect AGI to rise up and say, look, what we need in this country more than anything else today, apart from security, is to create more jobs. And it's the raw materials that help create jobs. He didn't touch on that.
But Honorable, some will say that can't we give them credit that they promised to do something and they are taking the necessary steps to do it? they have 4 years to manage this economy.
Well, they promised to reduce energy levy. Have they removed it? So why should I give them credit? I will give them credit, the Minister of Credit, for one thing. Going forward with the VRA restructuring, which will free the thermal division and possibly invite private sector participation in the thermal. I have always advocated for this. It was contained in the 2015 State of the Nation address. I applaud the Minister of Finance for going forward with that. Some of us are willing to support the government when policies we believe are in the national interest. We will not shy away from supporting and applauding, but where we think there is a cosmetic attempt at propaganda, such as removing non-existent levies, we will point that out.
Thank you so much there, Dr. Kobna Donkor. He is a former power minister, and this is our coverage of the 2017 budget. You know, the debate wouldn't only go here in Parliament, but I know in your offices, in your homes, even in the trotros and wherever that you find yourself, together with a strong team here from Parliament. My name is George Yafe. We brought you all the angles, the interviews, the perspective from all those who matter. From Parliament House, this is George Yafe, leading our coverage for the 2017 budget. Back to you, all those in the studios, Kokomlemle.